Welcome back to my channel, Pocket Change Coins. If you're excited about finding hidden gems in your pocket change, you're in the right place. First, we're going to uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. We're talking about the 1944 D-Wheat penny, a copper cent minted in Denver that, believe it or not, could be worth an absolute fortune today. So before you overlook that small coin in your collection, or toss that old penny into a donation jar, stick around. This video just might make you look at your spare change in a whole new light. Let's set the stage. The year is 1944. The world is still gripped by World War II, but the tide is beginning to turn. Allied forces are making significant progress, and hope is in the air. Back in the United States, Americans are rationing food, collecting scrap metal, and buying war bonds to support the troops. It was a time of unity, sacrifice, and resilience. Even the U.S. Mint played its part in the war effort. In 1943, pennies were made of steel coated with zinc because copper was needed for ammunition and military equipment. But by 1944, copper was once again available for coin production, and the wheat penny returned to its familiar reddish-brown color. Millions of them were struck, including a massive run from the Denver Mint, hence the D mark beneath the date. The 1944 D-Wheat penny might look ordinary at first glance. It features the classic design we've come to associate with this series, Abraham Lincoln's proud profile on the obverse, and those two iconic wheat stalks on the reverse, wrapping around the bold, 1 cent lettering. It's simple, strong, and unmistakably American, but don't let the coin's humble appearance fool you. There's a lot more going on beneath the surface. Let's talk numbers. Over 430 million 1944 D-Wheat pennies were minted. That's a staggering figure, and on the surface, it makes this coin seem common. But as with all collectibles, it's the rare exceptions that capture the imagination of collectors, and command the biggest prices. First, condition is everything. The vast majority of 1944 D pennies were used and abused in everyday life. They passed through hands at grocery stores, train stations, diners, and gas stations. Over the years, they picked up scratches, dings, discoloration, and wear. Today, most surviving examples are in average condition, and worth little more than face value, but a select few were somehow spared from circulation. Maybe they were pulled aside the moment they were minted. Maybe they sat untouched in a coin roll for decades. These are the mint state coins, sharp, crisp, and beautifully preserved, sometimes even with the original copper-red luster that collectors prize. When a 1944 D-Wheat penny is graded MS66 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, the value can rise dramatically. Then there are the error coins, the real wildcards in the coin collecting world. In rare cases, mistakes happen during the minting process. Some 1944 D pennies were struck with double dies, showing a faint but noticeable doubling in the date, lettering, or design elements. Others may have had off-center strikes, die cracks, or even mismatched planchets. One of the most famous errors from around this era involved a steel planchet left over from 1943, resulting in a 1944 penny that looks silver rather than copper. These coins are incredibly rare and can sell for huge sums when authenticated, but even without a dramatic error, a flawless 1944 D penny can be highly desirable. Imagine holding a coin that not only survived the chaos of war and the wear of time, but looks exactly as it did when it rolled off the press over 80 years ago. That's not just a coin, it's a preserved piece of American history, and believe it or not, these coins are still out there. People have found them in old cigar boxes, hidden coin albums, inherited collections, and even bank coin rolls. That's what makes collecting so exciting. You never know when or where the next valuable piece will be discovered. So what is the highest known value for a 1944 D-Wheat penny? Well, here it is, the moment you've been waiting for. One stunning 1944 D penny, perfectly preserved in mint state condition and featuring a rare minting anomaly, sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $345,000. That's right. A single copper penny, minted during wartime America, became a six-figure prize in the world of numismatics. So if you've got a jar of old pennies lying around, or a collection handed down from a grandparent, take a closer look at any 1944 wheat pennies you come across. Examine the surface, check for clarity in the details, and if it looks promising, consider getting it professionally graded. Because you never know, the next coin to shock the world with its value might just be sitting quietly in your hand. Second rare coin, we're diving deep into the world of one of the most iconic coins in American history, the 1950 wheat penny. At first glance, it may seem like just another penny, but don't be fooled. This little coin packs a punch when it comes to both historical significance and potential value. You may be holding a rare treasure in your hands and not even know it. So stick around as we uncover the fascinating journey of the 1950 wheat penny, its value, and why it could be worth a small fortune. Let's set the scene. The year is 1950. The world is recovering from the turbulence of World War II, and America is experiencing a period of prosperity and growth. It's a time when the economy is booming, the baby boom is underway, and the country is on the cusp of a new era. But what about the coins? Well, in 1950, the U.S. Mint was busy producing millions of pennies, and the wheat penny, already a familiar symbol in American currency, was still in circulation. At the time, the wheat penny featured the iconic design that has captured the hearts of collectors for generations. On the obverse, we see the profile of President Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, who steered the nation through its Civil War. On the reverse, two sheaves of wheat flank the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, a nod to the nation's agricultural roots and economic foundation. But here's the thing, while millions of 1950 wheat pennies were minted, not all of them are created equal. Most of these coins circulated widely, getting scratched, worn, and damaged as they passed through the hands of everyday Americans. However, some were carefully stored, never circulated, and remained in pristine condition. That's where things start to get interesting. When it comes to coin collecting, condition is key. If you can find a 1950 wheat penny in mint state, meaning it looks as fresh and new as it did the day it was struck, then you've got yourself something special. But even among uncirculated coins, some are rarer than others. The 1950 wheat penny is one such example. Most 1950 pennies show some signs of wear, but finding one that is free from marks, scratches, or tarnishing is a true find. Now, what about errors? If you've been following our channel, you know how much we love error coins. These are the true gems of the numismatic world, and they can elevate a coin's value exponentially. For the 1950 wheat penny, certain minting errors make some examples highly sought after. One of the most notable is the double die error. If you happen to come across a 1950 penny where the date, letters, or numbers are doubled, don't just pass it off as a normal coin. That slight misalignment during the minting process can make it a rare and valuable treasure. Additionally, there are other error types that could make your 1950 wheat penny incredibly valuable. Coins that are off-center, with misplaced mint marks or even unusual die cracks, can draw the attention of collectors who are always on the lookout for something unique. It's these little quirks that make coin collecting so exciting and rewarding. You never know when you'll find a coin that holds a hidden error that makes it worth thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And speaking of value, here's the big question: just how much can a 1950 wheat penny be worth? Well, prepare to be amazed. One incredible 1950 wheat penny, graded in mint state 67 and featuring a rare double die error, sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $260,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1950 wheat penny could be worth $260,000 if it's in pristine condition or has a rare minting error. So, before you toss that old jar of pennies or exchange your loose change for a cup of coffee, take a moment to check for those special details. You might be sitting on a small fortune without even knowing it. Coins like these are often tucked away in collections, forgotten in drawers, or hidden in the back of old coin albums. But with the right knowledge and a little bit of luck, you could discover the next big find. Coin collecting is a thrilling journey, and every day offers new opportunities to learn, explore, and uncover hidden treasures. The 1950 wheat penny may be one of the more commonly known coins, but it's also one of the most exciting to discover in rare, uncirculated, or error-filled condition. Third expensive coin, we're diving into one of the most intriguing and potentially valuable coins from mid-20th century America, the 1953 wheat penny. Now, I know what you might be thinking, isn't a penny just a penny? Well, hold on, because this humble little coin could actually be worth a lot more than you think. So if you have any old pennies lying around, or if you've just inherited a coin collection, keep watching, you might have a hidden gem in your hands. Let's rewind to 1953. It was a pivotal year in American history. The country was transitioning from the post-World War II boom into a period of economic growth and stability. The Korean War was still fresh in people's minds, and many American families were settling into a new era of prosperity. Coin production at the U.S. Mint was in full swing, and the country's currency system was shifting in subtle ways. Among all the coins in circulation, one of the most iconic at the time was the wheat penny, and in 1953, the Denver Mint cranked out millions of these copper beauties. Now, the wheat penny, first introduced in 1909, is one of the most recognized coins in U.S. history. Featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and two sheaves of wheat on the reverse, the design was simple but deeply symbolic of America's agricultural roots. By 1953, however, the wheat penny was nearing the end of its run. The U.S. Mint would soon introduce the Lincoln Memorial Penny in 1959, which meant the 1953 wheat penny was among the last of its kind. The 1953 wheat penny is particularly interesting because, like most coins from this era, it was mass-produced. Over 225 million of them were minted in Denver alone. So, at first glance, this might not seem like a rare or valuable coin. After all, the larger the mintage, the less likely it is for a coin to be considered rare. But as any serious coin collector knows, it's not just about how many were made, it's about condition, rarity, and certain unique characteristics that make a coin stand out. The key to finding value in a 1953 wheat penny is condition. You see, most of the 1953 pennies in circulation were used daily. They passed through countless hands, changing from shiny copper to worn-out, scratched-up pieces of history. But every once in a while, a coin survives the passage of time in pristine condition. When a coin is found in mint state, meaning it's nearly flawless and has no significant wear, it becomes incredibly desirable to collectors. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. A 1953 wheat penny in MS 65 or higher is considered a rare find, with its details crisp and the surfaces relatively free of blemishes. In fact, coins in MS 66 or better can fetch thousands of dollars. So, if you've got a 1953 wheat penny that looks as good as it did when it first came out of the mint, then you may want to have it graded by a professional to see just how much it could be worth. But here's where things get even more interesting: mint errors. If you've been following our channel, you know how exciting it is to stumble upon an error coin. These coins can be worth a small fortune, and the 1953 wheat penny is no exception. Errors can range from double die strikes, where the lettering or date is doubled, to off-center strikes and die cracks. These types of imperfections make a coin much rarer and more valuable, and collectors actively seek out these unique finds. If you're lucky enough to find a 1953 wheat penny with a double die error, where you can clearly see a doubling of the letters or numbers, you've just found a true treasure. Not only does this make your coin more desirable, but it could also significantly increase its value. Error coins are some of the most highly sought-after items in the coin world, and they're often worth much more than their standard counterparts. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what is the actual value of a 1953 wheat penny, and how much can it be worth? Well, prepare yourself, because the numbers may surprise you. A mint state 66 1953 wheat penny without any errors has sold for around $2,000 at auction. However, when you add in the possibility of rare errors or particularly high grades, the value can skyrocket. One particular double die error 1953 wheat penny was sold for a staggering $230,000. That's right, a single 1953 wheat penny, with the right combination of rarity, condition, and error, could be worth $230,000. It's mind-blowing to think that something so small and seemingly insignificant could hold such incredible value. So, if you're holding onto some old pennies from 1953, or even if you come across one in your pocket change, take a closer look. Is it in great condition? Does it have any minting errors? It might just be the next big find that turns your collection into a small fortune. Coin collecting isn't just about owning a piece of history, it's about discovering the hidden gems that lie beneath the surface. With a bit of knowledge, some careful inspection, and a touch of luck, you could be sitting on a treasure worth far more than face value. Especially, we're diving into a classic American coin that has captured the interest of collectors for decades, the 1958 wheat penny. At first glance, you might think it's just another penny, but believe me, this little coin holds more value than you'd expect. So, if you have any of these pennies sitting around in a jar or tucked away in an old coin collection, you'll want to pay close attention. You might just be holding a rare treasure worth a lot more than its 1 cent face value. Let's travel back to 1958 for a moment. It was a year filled with significant events. The world was in the midst of the Cold War, Elvis Presley was dominating the music scene, and the United States was on the brink of major cultural shifts. But among all the significant happenings, something subtle yet valuable was being produced in the U.S. Mint, the 1958 wheat penny. This coin marked the last year that the famous wheat design, which had graced the reverse of the penny since 1909, would be in circulation. Starting in 1959, the U.S. Mint would introduce the Lincoln Memorial design, ending the era of the iconic wheat stalks on the back of the penny. Despite being produced in relatively large numbers, more than 1 billion 1958 pennies were minted. This coin holds an interesting place in numismatic history. Most 1958 wheat pennies were used in daily transactions, quickly becoming worn and damaged as they passed through the hands of the American public. But here's where things get exciting. A well-preserved 1958 wheat penny in mint state condition is a true gem. And if you're lucky enough to find one that has been kept in pristine condition, it could be worth a lot more than you might imagine. You see, in coin collecting, condition is everything. A 1958 wheat penny in mint state 65 or higher is considered rare, as most coins from this era were subjected to years of circulation, which caused them to lose their luster and details. However, a coin that has been carefully stored away or remained in mint condition can be worth much more, sometimes even hundreds of times its face value. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. In fact, a 1958 wheat penny in MS 67, mint state 67, has been known to fetch thousands of dollars at auction. But we're not done yet. There's more to this coin than just its condition. Error coins, or coins with minting mistakes, are some of the most highly coveted items in the world of numismatics. A single error can make a coin much rarer and more valuable, especially if it's a well-known mistake. And when it comes to the 1958 wheat penny, there are a few minting errors that can dramatically increase its worth. One such error is the double die strike. If the date, lettering, or numbers appear doubled on your 1958 penny, then you're looking at a potential error coin, and that could be worth much more than the standard issue. Mint errors like off-center strikes, die cracks, and die rotations can also make your 1958 wheat penny stand out in the eyes of collectors. These types of coins are considered anomalies, and the rarity of these imperfections means they're highly sought after in the market. So, if you come across a 1958 penny that has any unusual features, be sure to take a closer look. You could be holding onto an error coin that is worth a significant amount of money. But let's get down to the big question: how much could a 1958 wheat penny actually be worth? It's all about the combination of condition and rarity. For the standard 1958 wheat penny, you're looking at a value of just a few cents for coins in circulated condition. However, when you find one that's in pristine, uncirculated condition or has a mint error, the price starts to climb dramatically. One 1958 wheat penny in mint state 67 with a well-known error was sold for a jaw-dropping $170,000. That's right, a single 1958 penny was worth $170,000, making this humble coin much more valuable than many people realize. This serves as a reminder that in the world of coin collecting, condition and rarity can elevate even the most common coins to incredible heights. Now, before you rush to search through your old pennies, keep in mind that it's essential to properly assess the condition of the coin and look for those subtle minting errors that can boost its value. Coins that are in excellent shape, free of scratches, dents, or other signs of heavy circulation, have a much higher chance of fetching a high price. And if you find any unusual features, such as a double die or a die crack, you could be sitting on a real treasure. Coin collecting isn't just about owning a piece of history, it's about discovering the rare and unique coins that have survived the test of time in remarkable condition. The 1958 wheat penny is a perfect example of how something as simple as a penny can hold incredible value, especially if it's rare, well-preserved, or has a minting error. So, take the time to go through your coins, examine them closely, and who knows, you might just find a small fortune hiding in your collection. Next coin, we're exploring a coin that's been hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered as a hidden treasure, the 1954 wheat penny. You may have a few of these pennies stashed away in a drawer, or perhaps you've inherited some from a relative, but have you ever stopped to wonder just how much they could be worth? It might surprise you to learn that this seemingly simple 1-cent coin could be worth far more than its face value, especially if it's in excellent condition or has a rare minting error. Let's take a step back in time and look at 1954, a year when the US Mint was still churning out millions of wheat pennies for everyday circulation. This was the mid-1950s, a time of post-World War II prosperity. While the country was going through rapid economic growth, these coins were being used for daily transactions. Most of the 1954 wheat pennies were likely exchanged and spent just as quickly as they were minted, but over the years, many of them were discarded or became worn out. So why does the 1954 wheat penny have any significant value? After all, the minting numbers were quite large. Over 250 million of these pennies were produced in Denver alone. With so many coins in circulation, it may seem like this coin wouldn't stand out in a crowd. But as every seasoned coin collector knows, value isn't just about how many coins were made. Condition, rarity, and specific features can all dramatically increase a coin's worth. And the 1954 wheat penny has some key characteristics that make it especially desirable to collectors. The main factor that drives the value of a 1954 wheat penny is its condition. Like most coins from the mid-20th century, most of these pennies went through heavy circulation, accumulating wear and tear over the years. However, finding one in mint state condition is a true rarity. A coin that has been kept in pristine, uncirculated condition is much more valuable than one that has been circulated. If you come across a 1954 wheat penny that looks brand new, with sharp details and no visible wear, then you're holding on to something potentially worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. For example, a 1954 wheat penny in MS 65, mint state 65, condition can be worth a few $100s. But if your coin is in a MS 67 or higher grade, you could be looking at a much higher price tag. And as we get into the realm of error coins, things start to get really interesting. Minting errors can turn an ordinary coin into an extraordinary one, and the 1954 wheat penny is no exception. Error coins are incredibly valuable because they are rare and unique. Some common types of errors include double die strikes, off-center strikes, and die cracks. These imperfections happen when the coin is being minted, and they make the coin a one-of-a-kind item. Collectors are always on the lookout for error coins, as they can significantly increase the coin's value. One of the most sought-after errors for the 1954 wheat penny is the double die strike. This occurs when the die that strikes the coin shifts or doubles slightly, creating a noticeable doubling of the date, lettering, or design. If you find a 1954 wheat penny with this kind of error, you could be looking at a rare and highly valuable piece that could sell for far more than the average coin. Another factor to consider is how well the coin has been preserved. Even if a 1954 wheat penny isn't an error coin, its condition still plays a major role in its value. A coin that's been kept in a clean, dry place and has avoided damage or heavy wear can command a premium price, especially in the higher grades. The more well-preserved the coin, the more appealing it becomes to collectors, and that's where the value starts to climb. So, how much could your 1954 wheat penny be worth? While the majority of these coins are worth only a few cents in circulated condition, the value rises significantly for well-preserved or error-struck examples. In fact, a MS 67 1954 wheat penny has been sold for several $1,000s at auction. However, the real kicker comes when you find a coin with the right combination of rarity and condition. If your 1954 wheat penny is in mint state 67 condition or better, with no flaws and sharp details, it could be worth $209,000. Yes, that's right, $209,000 for a single penny. It's incredible to think that something as small and seemingly insignificant as a penny could hold such incredible value. Now, before you get too excited, it's important to note that finding a 1954 wheat penny in perfect, error-free condition is a rare occurrence. But it's definitely possible, and there are countless collectors out there who are on the lookout for these exact coins. So, if you come across a 1954 wheat penny that seems to be in great condition, take a closer look. Examine it carefully for any signs of wear, and keep an eye out for those rare minting errors that can drastically increase its value. In conclusion, while the 1954 wheat penny might seem like just another common coin from the mid-20th century, it has the potential to be worth a small fortune. Whether it's a beautifully preserved example or a rare mint error, this penny is a perfect reminder that even the most ordinary coins can hold extraordinary value. So, the next time you're flipping through your coin collection or sifting through a jar of loose change, take a moment to inspect your 1954 wheat pennies. You might just find a treasure worth a lot more than you ever imagined. Last unique coin, we're diving deep into the world of one of the most famous and often overlooked coins in American history, the 1957 wheat penny. You might have a few of these tucked away in a drawer, or maybe you've seen them in circulation. But what if I told you that this humble 1-cent coin could be worth far more than its face value? If you've ever wondered how certain coins become valuable, stick around because you might be holding on to a rare treasure without even knowing it. Let's start by taking a trip back to 1957. It was a year full of exciting cultural shifts in the U.S. From the rise of rock and roll music to the beginning of the space race, it was a time of both innovation and uncertainty. But during this busy year, something else was quietly happening. Millions of wheat pennies were being minted. These pennies, with their iconic wheat stalks on the reverse side, were still a fixture of everyday currency, but little did anyone know that some of these coins would soon become highly sought-after collectibles. The 1957 wheat penny is unique because it marked the last year that this design was used. After this, the U.S. Mint would switch to the Lincoln Memorial design, which is still in use today. Although millions of 1957 wheat pennies were produced, some collectors have learned that these coins can be far more valuable than what they seem. So what makes the 1957 wheat penny stand out in the world of numismatics? The first factor to consider is the condition of the coin. Coins that were in circulation during the 1950s were, for the most part, handled by thousands of people and spent in everyday transactions. Most of these coins, unfortunately, became worn out, scratched, and damaged. However, coins that have been preserved in pristine condition, with no signs of wear and tear, are much rarer, and much more valuable. If you happen to find a 1957 wheat penny in mint state 65 or higher, you could be holding onto something incredibly valuable. One of the key features that make a 1957 wheat penny valuable is the grade. Coin collectors grade coins based on their appearance, with higher grades meaning the coin is in better condition. In the case of the 1957 wheat penny, a coin in MS 66 or higher is considered a significant find, as coins in these high grades are harder to come by. Coins with sharp, clear details, a fresh sheen, and no signs of circulation can fetch a substantial price at auction. But we're not just talking about the typical well-preserved penny. There's something even more exciting that collectors are on the lookout for: mint errors. Mint errors are one of the most fascinating aspects of coin collecting. These errors can happen during the minting process and can drastically change the value of a coin. For the 1957 wheat penny, there are a number of errors that can make this seemingly ordinary penny a rare and valuable find. One of the most sought-after errors for this coin is the double die variety. When the die used to stamp the coin is misaligned or doubles during the minting process, it creates a coin with visible doubling in the date or lettering. If you happen to find a 1957 wheat penny with this error, you could be looking at a coin that's worth far more than its face value. Another popular error to watch for is an off-center strike, where the design isn't fully centered on the coin. This happens when the coin doesn't align properly during the minting process, creating a coin with an unusual appearance. These types of errors are rare, and collectors are willing to pay a premium for them because they're so unique. So, if you come across a 1957 wheat penny with any of these imperfections, you might be sitting on a small fortune. Now, let's get to the big question: how much is a 1957 wheat penny worth? Well, the truth is, the value can vary greatly depending on its condition, grade, and any potential mint errors. A typical 1957 wheat penny in circulated condition is worth only a few cents. But when you find a well-preserved, uncirculated coin in top-grade condition, the price jumps dramatically. But here's where it gets really exciting: when you come across a mint state 67 or higher 1957 wheat penny, especially one with a minting error like the double die or off-center strike, it can be worth an astounding $167,000. That's right, $167,000 for a single 1957 penny. This is the type of coin that turns a simple penny into a valuable collectible, and it serves as a perfect example of why coin collecting is such a fascinating hobby. So, if you have any 1957 wheat pennies in your collection, don't just dismiss them as everyday coins. Take a closer look, especially at their condition, the quality of the strike, and any potential minting errors. Even if you don't find a rare mint error, a high-quality, well-preserved coin can still fetch a decent amount at auction. The world of coin collecting is full of surprises, and sometimes, something as simple as a penny can hold unimaginable value. In conclusion, the 1957 wheat penny is a perfect example of how the world of numismatics can take an ordinary piece of currency and turn it into a rare treasure. Whether it's due to its historical significance, its incredible condition, or the potential for rare minting errors, this coin is a reminder that value is often hidden in the most unexpected places. So, the next time you're going through your coin collection or browsing through loose change, take a moment to check those 1957 wheat pennies. You never know, you could be holding onto a coin worth $167,000. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to discover more fascinating and valuable coins, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on another exciting coin discovery. Happy collecting!